Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we're going to take a look at the mental health crisis on America's campuses with a best-selling author. Her journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team. And the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, my kids are grown, but if I was the parent of a college-age student, frankly, I would be concerned right now. Why? COVID, it messed everybody up. We shut down schools, we went into remote learning. I don't think the mental health issue across the country has been approached correctly for adults. Just imagine young people. To talk about that today, Dr. Stacia Alexander. She is a licensed clinical therapist. Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay, so now your kids are grown as well.
They are,
okay.
Yes. Everyone's an adult now.
Okay, but when the pandemic was going on and you saw all these kids suddenly having to do remote learning, were you concerned?
Actually, I was very concerned and started talking about the issue at the beginning, at the outset of COVID, talking to parents about how to talk to your children about it, how to ask questions, being very specific about how your children feel, not just focusing on the grades or their friends or them laying around all the time, but actually asking authentic questions and listening to their answers.
And tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think college campuses are really equipped for this. I mean, they have like a nursing office or HR, but they don't have mental health therapists on every street corner at a college campus, do they?
No, and had you asked me that question about 5 years ago, it would have been even worse. But now college campuses are listening. They are opening up counseling centers. They're staffing full-time clinicians. However, the question then becomes how much are the students accessing the services, because there's still a significant mental health stigma on campuses. So what we're seeing in the general public, you also see that on college campuses as well.
Well, let's talk about your best-selling book. We're going to put this up on the screen so people can see it. The 10 Things I Wish I Knew About Mental Health. Okay, one, I love the title.
Thank you.
How long have you been working on it?
I've been working on this book for about 3 to 4 years. I've been working with college students through the course of being in private practice, and then I started working on a college campus about 4 years ago. And it just resonated with me how the students were actually struggling with the same things that I had struggled with when I went off to college and some of my classmates. So just started jotting things down. But this year, I said, I need to sit down and fully write the book. And I really wanted to do 10 plus things to make it a quick read for parents and their students. But the more I got to writing, the more I got to thinking and saying this has to be included. So that's why it's 10 plus things.
Well, I think there's always been an issue on college campuses, but it's more acute now, not just COVID, but let's think about social media. It's been well documented that some of these social media companies will feed you what you like to look at. And so if somebody started to look at weight loss or anorexia or whatever, they start feeding you more.
Right. Yes, you're going to change the algorithm on your page. And a lot of times what young people are looking at are flamboyant lifestyles, these lives that are full of energy and life and all of the things that they wish they could have, not realizing that that's a snapshot into that person's life. And so what ends up happening, they begin to stress about those things that, oh, I should have accomplished this by now, or I should have these things by now, and it creates anxiety. But in addition to that, we have societal ills that our college students are picking up on. Like, they've always paid attention to it, or you would have a subset of the college population that paid attention to it. But now everything is filtering over because we all had to take a break. We all had to sit down, for 2 years.
And we know in countless homes across the country, you have young people who are coming back to mom and dad over the holidays. So what are some warning signs? What are some things that people should be watching for?
That's a great question. They actually should look at their child's temperament. And I'm saying child, but we're talking about an adult. They should look at their temperament. Is it different than it was when they left home the first time? Are they oversleeping? Like the first couple of days, they're probably going to sleep a lot because they're recovering and recalibrating. But if they've isolated and they will not spend time with the family and they're agitated, you want to pay attention to that. If you notice that they're using drugs, if you smell something different, you want to pay attention to that. So I actually do. I put a video out today on 3 questions you can ask your college student when they get back home.
No kidding.
I did, because I love TikTok. I love doing the videos, right?
I do remember the 3?
Yes, I do remember the 3. Yes.
What are the 3?
Yes, the first one is, how do you feel?
Okay.
Not how did you do, not what organizations did you join, actually how did you feel? Okay. The second one is, and it's 2-part, did you have any lows during this semester? And the second part of that is, how did you get through it? I really want to know. So you just want to take a step back and listen. And the third question you want to ask your college student is, how can I help you decompress over the college break?
Wow. So you mentioned substance abuse. Obviously, during the pandemic, and it's not just college kids, adults were day drinking. There was a lot going on.
Yes, it was.
If somebody is battling with mental health issues, those substances aren't doing them any favors.
No, they're actually going to compound the issue. So you do not have a baseline with which to be treated when you're using drugs. The only thing we really need to focus on in the beginning is the usage of those drugs and how they're actually impacting your daily behavior and how you're thinking. So we want to get you, sober so that we can actually deal with the real issues that probably contributed to you using drugs as an outlet.
So I want to brag about you and put up some video of your sizzle reel. You're like a Renaissance woman. You are all over the place. You're doing podcasting, you're speaking, you're a best-selling author.
Yes.
Where do you find the time?
I do. So I do have a lot of energy. If you can see from those pictures, I was moving quite along at a quick pace, so I was kind of neglecting myself when you look back on the pictures and everything. But I've always had a lot of energy since I was young. I love being around people. I love learning. I love helping people. That's my nature. If I'm not helping someone, I don't feel like I'm walking in my own providential purpose. I know that God has ordained a life for me where I help other people, and I feel blessed to walk in that.
Well, you look amazing and you look very
Thank
healthy.
you.
Now, did you make any lifestyle changes?
I absolutely did.
What did you do?
I detoxed from sugar.
Love it.
I did. I've worked on my metabolism, getting a lot more sleep now, being more intentional about what I put into my body because I'm learning more, and actually how it relates to our mental health. So, yes.
And I'm glad you had that journey, because sometimes when you're working with a client or a patient, you have not walked a mile in their shoes, but now you can say, yes, I have.
I've walked a half marathon in their shoes trying to get that weight off. Yes, I've walked, I've ran, I've done some of everything. So yes, you're right. I can associate with that.
I love it. And she also has a very vibrant store on her website. We want to put that up and kind of scroll down it. Now, I love some of the I do therapy, not drugs. How do you come up with these slogans?
I listen. And plus I have 2 and a bonus kid, and we talk. I listen. That's all it is. I listen. And so these are just some of them. We have quite a few that are going to come out, but we were pacing ourselves. But it's just so that people can be vocal about their mental health. We talk about everything else, but we don't incorporate how we feel into the discussion until we're in a crisis situation.
Yes. Now, we spent a lot of time talking about college campuses and young people dealing with mental health issues. What about just the general population?
We're in a crisis. We could actually say that we're in a pandemic at this point in terms of mental health. But I think where we're missing the mark is not focusing on the system that has created this space for all of us to be struggling at the level that we're struggling. And that's what the conversation needs to switch to. So anytime there's a crisis or something bad happens, we immediately go to, were they depressed? Were they anxious? Instead of looking at, why were they depressed?
Right.
Why did he commit suicide? When from all appearances, he has everything going together. What is actually going on systematically that gets us to a place where we feel like death is the only answer, or we're struggling with depression or anxiety. And those are just the top ones, right? There's so
Yes.
many other layers to mental health, but we tend to deal with the pop ones.
And let's talk about the stigma because, as you mentioned before, it's still there. I think it's things are getting better. Certainly, celebrities are coming out saying that they're battling with
Right.
stuff, and every time a prominent celebrity who we think has it all together admits that they're struggling, it probably gives people permission to raise their hand and say, "I am too."
Right. I think that's one of the hurdles that we've overcome. The other one is trying to figure out how to help people. So even if a celebrity says, I'm having a hard time, this is what's going on, people will still say negative things about them or be dismissive about what they're actually experiencing and trying to stabilize their lives. And taking it to apply to our own lives. That if I'm having a hard time, why do I hesitate to call a clinician? If I have a heart attack right now, everyone in this room is going to stop and call emergency personnel. But we do not do that for ourselves when we're having a crisis in our homes and with our families.
Wow. I could listen to you all day. We're almost out of time. So final thoughts. What would you like to leave people with?
I would like to leave people with, it is upon all of us to remove the stigma of mental health. We each have a place in that journey. So it's not just on the professionals. That's why so many people are talking about it. That's why so many people are coming out as advocates for mental health, as they've done with other crises that we've encountered, right, as a society. And I applaud it because it is a level of growth that we've been fighting for so long. Part of my contribution to it is removing the stigma of mental health, talking about it openly, having authentic conversations so that when it comes up around the coffee table, you're okay with talking about it.
Thank you so much for blessing us with your wisdom. We're going to end with the website so you can get in touch with her, mycollegementalhealth.com.
Yes.
Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.